What's actually influencing the voters that are likely to turn out in this election cycle? Well, this is a picture of the president the day after the election in 2010. To a large extent, what's motivating voters at this point is their attitude and opinions about the president. You can see that among likely Republican voters, people that are likely to go and vote in support of Republican candidates, the Affordable Care Act is a strongly motivating factor. The economy, the continued sluggish recovery is probably driving a lot of this voter attitude well, people feeling as though it's not coming about quickly enough, although North Carolina is a particularly good story to tell. I think there is some impression that the administration's not done enough to try to stimulate the economy. You have issues like Benghazi. We're now seeing the VA as an issue, the Veterans Administration scandal, the IRS scandal. This is not inconsistent with other second-term presidents. The 6-year itch, the dynamic of the final midterm of an incumbent president not going well for that president's party is at play. But here's an issue that we're keeping our eyes on. There was some report done a while back that projected the Chinese economy would surpass the U.S. economy as the leading economy in the world sometime around 2016. And now a group of economists have come out and said they think it could occur as early as this fall. And just in our assessment, if that indeed comes to pass, if the Chinese economy becomes the greatest economy on the planet, the amount of press attention that dynamic will get will overwhelm, in many ways, some of these other issue sets that are driving voters. It's shaping up to be a strong Republican year. I mean, all these factors put together, it's shaping up to be a strong Republican year. But this dynamic of the United States falling from the top position of the economic leaders of the world is very likely to drive voter attitudes against the president, against Democrats.
We developed earlier this year, it's called the Conventional Voting Behavior Rating. You might have heard of a PVI. Charlie Cook is a famous political pundit that comes up with a PVI. Joe and I aren't as good looking or as smart as Charlie Cook, so we decided to come up with our own CVB rating. But what
it'd be hard not to be better looking than Charlie Cook, for those who know Charlie Cook.
And so what this map is actually North Carolina, we divided up the state to VTDs, which are voting tabulated districts. That is a baseline measure used by the Census Bureau every 10 years to recalibrate how populations are distributed among districts. And so we go into each VTD and we did their historical voting performance on all statewide campaigns from 2008 through 2012. And we baselined that against the state as a whole and came up with a 5-coloring system to label each VTD as how it performs on a historical analysis basis. And so you see a lot of North Carolina is actually very strong Republican. That means if given a preference between a Republican or a Democrat, the voters in those VTDs have historically picked the Republican candidate by a greater than 6 margin. Lean Republican is between 3 and 6. Competitive is anything between lean 3 Republican and lean 3 Democrat, and then the Democrats are lean Democrats plus 3D to plus 6, and anything greater than plus 6 is strong Democrat. You see some of the pockets though. Northeastern North Carolina is still very much a strong Democratic stronghold. Southeastern North Carolina is going through a bit of a transition as you see some of the conservative older Democrats converting to Republicans or voting for Republican candidates. Now, this is not based on party registration. This is based on actually what they do when they get inside the ballot box and cast that ballot when no one's looking. The other trend is you see out in the West a lot of red, and that's kind of changed over the past couple of years. But if we could zoom into this map, and this map is available on Google Earth on our website, so you can actually zoom in to see your street. But you'll look at the I-85 corridor from Raleigh all the way to Charlotte. Joe calls it Charlie. But this is a very strong concentration of highly motivated Democratic voters, and they're becoming stronger in their ranks just because of the migration population into those areas. And so that's a new dynamic in North Carolina politics that will bear some attention over the next 10 to 15 years as they grow in influence. Because and we'll talk about this a little bit later in our presentation, but the rural parts of the state, there are certain counties where the mortality rate is higher than the birth rate. It's literally counties are dying and they're not reproducing. And so all that population is losing influence and giving it away to these urban centers as they're growing in influence.